Good evening. Welcome back to Compound Interesting. In today's video, I want to go through this entire research report from one of the biggest VC crypto firms in the entire world, one of the smartest giga brain firms in the entire world, Andreesen-Horowitz. They're sharing all their most interesting, most important insights on the state of crypto right now in 2023. And I've gone through this a couple of times now because I like this stuff. I think this stuff is really interesting and useful. So I've gone through it all, and I'm going to point out the most interesting insights, the most interesting highlights from this report, so you don't have to read it yourself. But it is going to be a bit of a longer video than most videos, and yeah, if that matters to you, come on, just whack the playback speed up to double speed and let's get on with it. Like, this is going to really open up the connections in your brain so you know exactly what's going on with crypto right now. So, with all that said, who are Andreesen-Horowitz? Quickly, this is Andreesen-Horowitz. This is one of the founders, the egghead here, Marc Andreessen. He created Netscape, like pretty much one of the founders of the actual internet, and now he's super interested in crypto. And then Ben Horowitz, another internet tech entrepreneur. So these two, like, really smart guys, and their firm has just shared all their research with us right now for this video. So without further ado, let's just dive into the first few slides. So this is a nice summary of their opinion and their view on crypto in general. Web3 is more than a financial movement, it's an evolution of the internet. So how that evolution went: with Web 1, you were able to go on Google and you were able to read stuff. So you're able to look something up, basically use it as a library, a thesaurus. You're able to look up anything you wanted, find out, read. And Web 2, the next step in the evolution, you're able to actually write on the internet. So this means you could write blogs, you could be the one providing that information on the internet. And to add to that, not just like writing blogs, you could post. So you could post on Facebook, Instagram, social media, etc., YouTube, like this. And finally, we got to Web 3, where you're actually able to own on the internet. So you're actually able to own a piece of the internet, and that, of course, is crypto. So the next 2 points are kind of the same point, but it's also very interesting, like really simple language, but means a lot. So blockchains are more than ledgers, they are computers. And crypto isn't just a financial system, it's a new computing platform. So essentially what smart contracts are, or what Ethereum is, it's not just money, it's a decentralized computer. So anyone can use this computer and you can write smart contracts, basically use it like a decentralized computer. So here is kind of a more detailed evolution of how Web 1 became into Web 3. So in the beginning, Web 1, we had open decentralized protocols, so kind of similar to what Web 3 is, but within the evolution to Web 2, all the power, all the control went into these siloed centralized services like Google, Facebook, Twitter, where you don't have much control over what goes on those platforms. If you're a content creator on Google or on Facebook, you don't have much control over that. You have to stick to Google's rules. However, with Web3, like, you can program anything you want on Ethereum. There's a lot more freedom. So it's kind of going back to the roots of the internet with Web3. And the value accrual is to the network participants. Like with Web 1, there was no value accrual, obviously, and Web 2, all the value is going to the companies. Like if you're a big Facebook user, like maybe you could, like if you had a big following on Facebook or on Instagram, like maybe you can advertise a little bit, but most of the money's gone back to the tech companies. However, if you're an early adopter, an early user of certain platforms, you could get airdrops. You can also invest in it very easily and make a lot of money. And this slide is essentially what I already mentioned: Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, website, post, token, information, publishing, ownership. This next slide just shows how much of the revenue from users of the platform, like say, for example, you are a big personality on Facebook or on Instagram, no matter how much ad revenue you make for Facebook and Instagram, you're not getting any of it. Same with Twitter, but that's obviously going to change soon with Elon Musk. And YouTube, you get 55% of the ad revenue that people watch on your YouTube channel if you become monetized. Spotify, you get 70%, etc. But then you can see the amount that you make on OpenSea, Uniswap, and Ethereum. Now, it's not really a brilliant direct comparison, but interesting nonetheless. The other big insight that they're sharing in this presentation, now we're going to get more through. I recommend you watch the whole video because there's a lot of interesting, useful information towards the end of the video. This slide is essentially showing that the consolidation of power and the consolidation of value in the like Web2 space, so Facebook, Google, Twitter, etc., like they're just getting bigger and bigger, and smaller companies are getting smaller and smaller. So one of the great things about Web3 is it completely turns this on its head. We really need some sort of, like, as things become centralized, more and more centralized in Web2, we need something that can counteract that trend, and that of course is Web3. As we can see, the comparison is big tech in comparisons to Web3. Blockchains transfer control from centralized entities to decentralized communities. Now they're kind of going through a few different positive or potentially positive feedback loops. So the first, that an increase in price brings about an increase in interest, and that increase in interest brings about new ideas, and those new ideas brings about new startups and projects, and those startups and projects attract value, attract price, which increases the price. So these are how the market cycles happen. This is an interesting slide. So this first table here, this first chart here, is just showing the price, 75% compound annual growth rate. Here it shows the interest on social media. You can see 63% compound annual growth rate. New ideas, so basically the developer activity, 84% compound annual growth rate, and startups, projects, funding activity. So they're all relatively in line with each other. The market has undergone 4 cycles, each bigger than the last. Here's a chart showing that great products get built regardless of financial upswings and downswings. It's showing pretty much every big tech company in the world, like no matter what the market was doing. For example, in 2009, we got so many massive companies birthed in that time period. And same in the crash, in the 2002 crash, we got Tesla, Facebook, some of the biggest companies in the world. Again, in the 2009 crash, we had WhatsApp, Snapchat, Instagram, Stripe, Discord, blah, blah, blah. You get the idea. And so the same thing is going to be happening during this bear market. The biggest, best products are going to be built right now. Here's showing the scaling solutions for blockchains. If you've been using Ethereum recently, you'll have realized how expensive the gas fees can get. It's been a bit of a joke. It's pretty awful at the moment. Let's be honest. But here is how the crypto industry is going to scale, because at the moment we can't handle the amount of users that we are aiming to get over the next decade or so. So we're going to have to use new layer ones, so Aptos, Sui, Solana, Avalanche, etc. Application specific, so ZK Sync, ZK rollups. Optimistic rollups, we of course have Arbitrum, which had that massive airdrop recently. Optimism. Zero knowledge rollups, we mentioned ZK Sync. Data availability chains like Celestia. I think Celestia is going to be huge when it drops. So if you want to watch my video on that, just look up Celestia in my videos. But there are scaling solutions coming for Ethereum and the entire crypto space, which is brilliant. This chart is showing all the fees paid by layer 2 rollups. Currently only 7% of the Ethereum fees are paid by the rollups. I think this is going to grow significantly over time as less people are doing stuff on the Ethereum main chain, because the Ethereum main chain isn't meant for all the transactions. But we can see 7% growing. It's growing a lot, the total Ethereum fees. So you can see it started at about 2% and now it's almost hitting 8%. And a lot of this is Arbitrum. The adoption of Arbitrum has been insane. Like, you can see the growth in the users on Arbitrum as well as Optimism. And I think Arbitrum is probably going to be the number one. It already is the number one over Optimism. But obviously this trend is going to continue, and most of the Ethereum fees are going to be paid by layer 2s, because you can't be doing everything on the main chain. Like, all our transactions are going to have to be done on layer 2. This is showing the environmental damage from Ethereum, the change before proof of stake here and after proof of stake. 99.9% reduction in energy consumption, which is obviously crazy and very bullish. In ESG, I know ESG is a scam. Nevertheless, like, it was a very good upgrade for Ethereum in my opinion. And here we have comparisons of the energy consumption of Ethereum in comparisons to gold mining. So you can see 0.026. So this is proof of stake Ethereum, and gold mining uses somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 to 92,000 times more energy YouTube uses more than 94,000 times more energy than proof of stake Ethereum. The old proof of work Ethereum used 30,000 times more more energy than Ethereum. The new proof of stake Ethereum does, and similar amount for Bitcoin. Data centers use 80,000 times more energy than proof of stake Ethereum. So there you can imagine that half a penny in comparisons to the Burj Khalifa, which is YouTube. So YouTube uses an insane amount of energy, and no one ever complained about that. Nevertheless, so $33 billion of Ethereum is securing 12.6 times that particular value. So Ethereum, the entire Ethereum market cap at the time of this presentation was 223 billion, and then we have all the tokens that are on top of Ethereum, 172 billion, and NFTs on Ethereum, 22 billion. So $417 billion is secured by $33 billion. So I don't think that's necessarily enough. I think the more Ethereum that is staked, the better the security actually is. So we want to actually reduce this figure as much as possible. So we want the most amount of Ethereum staked. That means it's harder and harder and harder to ever potentially attack the Ethereum network. The next couple of slides are about ZK proofs. I'm just going to skip through these, but ZK proofs are going to massively help Ethereum scale, but I don't want to get into it right now. This slide is about royalties in the NFT ecosystem, and as you can see, they've taken a massive dive over the last number of months, and yeah, royalties are probably going away because there's no proper way to enforce royalties really, because how could you enforce royalties on an asset when you can just trade it OTC? Like, you don't really own the asset if there's royalties enforced in it on the actual blockchain. So royalties are going away for NFTs. So NFT projects, NFT companies are going to have to look at alternate sources of revenue than royalties. So royalties was a thing of the past. Royalties have peaked, in my opinion, in regards to NFTs. Here are some of the brands that have come into the NFT space or into the crypto space. Starbucks have this new loyalty program built on Polygon, and that's kind of like an NFT kind of thing. But just like with Reddit, Starbucks are not calling them NFTs, calling them digital collectibles or whatever other term, because NFTs has a bad ring to it, or the mainstream people don't like the term NFT for whatever reason. And Reddit just got around it by saying, oh, you have a blockchain avatar or you have a digital collectible, and that goes down well for whatever reason. Nike obviously have Artifact. They bought a digital metaverse clothing company in Artifact. Porsche did something, but it was kind of a bit of a flop. Adidas are very involved, so Adidas and Nike are really getting involved in the NFT space, in the Web3 space. Nickelodeon, again, kind of a flop. Gucci, yeah, they're getting there a little bit. Louis Vuitton, don't even know what Louis Vuitton have done. Time, getting a little bit involved. DraftKings, don't really know what they're doing. Budweiser, a little bit of a flop. Tiffany & Co., they created necklaces for CryptoPunks. So, like, the companies that are actually doing interesting things are Nike, Adidas, Reddit, Starbucks. The rest, like, they don't really know what they're doing. Nickelodeon, like, a lot of them are just kind of cash grabs at the moment, but at least they're coming into Web3, and yeah, once they see that what Nike and Adidas do, once they see and what Starbucks do with crypto, with Web3, once they see the success that these companies have by not being total cash grabs, by actually rewarding the community, by actually creating interesting things, then the rest of them and more will come into the crypto space and the Web3 space and release some cool shit themselves. This slide is about Web3 Gaming. We can see apparently over 700 new Web3 games launched last year. I don't know about most of them, but I do know that Doogie Dash was a massive success. Otherside obviously dropped their Otherside plots at this point, but also have done their first and second trips. So Yuga Labs really dominating in this space, in my opinion, for the moment. And $67 billion were spent on digital in-game purchases in 2022. Now that's not in Web3, that's in Web2, but eventually this is going to come to Web3, or a large proportion of it is going to be coming to Web3. And Web3 Gaming, like Alex Becker has been pounding the table on, Web3 games generate 23 times more on-chain transactions than DeFi. So Web3 gaming is going to be huge. Here they're kind of talking about DAOs. Boring. I'm not really that bullish on DAOs. I think DAOs are kind of stupid, to be honest, nevertheless. But some people think DAOs are interesting. So you basically put your money into a DAO, and the DAO has a decentralized autonomous organization. So the DAO, anyone who has put money in can vote on certain proposal on what to do with this money that has been entered into the DAO. Probably one of the biggest DAOs is the Nouns DAO. And they're funding, charities, stuff like that. So it's obviously good. But I think for successful companies, DAO is not the way to go, because you need someone in charge who's actually really cares about what's going on, rather than just a decentralized. I think DAOs might work better for certain situations, but not for companies and stuff. All right, halfway there. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. So this slide is showing that the US is losing the lead in Web3. And I think this is, I don't think it's good or bad, but I think the Web3, crypto has to be decentralized, can't all be in the US. I think this trend is probably going to continue, especially with all the regulation that the US, the United States is really trying to fight crypto at the moment. So this trend is probably going to continue. And here they're talking about the regulation, like I just mentioned, policy and regulation, really, really strong in the US right now about crypto. But let's not dive too deep on that, because, there's nothing really we can do about this if you're, a degenerate like me. And I think it's going to all be sorted out. Like, the US is not going to ban crypto. Eventually, crypto is going to be well regulated, and everything will work out in regards to regulation and governments in regards to crypto in the United States. So here's another feedback loop, kind of similar to the last one, that innovation creates adoption, because innovation is new products, and new products brings new adoption. So new consumers creates the incentive for builders to create and innovate new products again, etc., etc. Okay, this chart is very interesting. It's showing that each bull market attracts a load of new developers, and these developers tend to stick around. So you can see after the last bear market, like, the numbers slid a little bit in the number of active developers, but they did stick around, and a whole new massive amount of developers came in the most recent bull market. And now that has tapered off a little bit, but I think, we're not going back to these levels whatsoever. So every bull market is going to bring more and more developers, and more developers is good for the crypto space. More interesting products, more scaling solutions, etc., etc. This chart is showing the amount of contracts that have been deployed, and as you can see, massive increase, and this is mostly due to NFTs. So this trend, although it's tapered off a little bit, especially from this peak, it's going to continue over the long term for sure. This chart is showing the academic publications in relation to crypto. Again, just a nice little uptrend, maybe a bit of a slowdown since the bull market ended, but not going to zero whatsoever. This chart is showing the increase in crypto-related jobs. You can see the bull markets bring loads of interest, but the baseline interest is increasing after every bull market. So this is probably going to flatline out and then increase in the next bull market. Now, this is one of the most bullish charts. Active addresses are growing steadily, and we can see active addresses just haven't slowed down whatsoever. Like, we did see a drop off in the last bear market, but not in this bear market. We're still seeing more and more active addresses, and that's brilliant to see. This chart is showing the number of total transactions, and this hasn't slowed down whatsoever either, because thankfully of layer 2 transactions being so much cheaper than in previous bull cycles or in previous months and years, where we didn't have any scaling solutions. So you have to do everything on main chain, and we can see in the last bull market how little transactions there were in comparisons to this bull market, because you can transact so many times on a layer 2 and only spend the same amount for one transaction on layer 1. So that's why transactions have just exploded, which is obviously great to see. Now, transaction fees, like, there's two sides of the coin. A lot of transaction fees, like, if people are willing to spend a lot of money on transaction fees, that's a good sign that people really want this product, People really want access to this block space, but also you don't want, you don't want to be so expensive that newcomers can't really come in. So there is that nice fine line, and we can see there has been a massive drop in block fees since the peak over here. However, this has probably risen a bit with all the meme coins recently. But yeah, we want to see layer 2 really keep these fees low for the next bull market, not get too high. This chart is showing the DEX volume over time. Pretty much no, or literally no DEX volume in the last bull run in 2017, and a lot of DEX volume recently. And I'd say this is actually quite high right now because of all the meme coin activity. The chart is showing the number of unique on-chain addresses that made at least one NFT purchase during the month. So you can see the chart isn't looking too bad. Now it's probably still in a bit of a downtrend, but yeah, not completely gone to zero. So at least one person making a transaction per wallet. So we know, like I know for a fact, like the volumes in the NFT space and the amount of unique buyers are at an all-time low. But it's nice to see that we haven't, like we're still retaining like at least 50% of the users, or a meaningful proportion of the users, which is great. Still a huge demand for stable coins. Everyone has sold out their Bitcoin and their Ethereum, and they're keeping their money in stable coins ready to buy back in if the prices drop again, or if the prices start rising, probably more likely. But yeah, still a lot of use for stable coins. People like to keep their money in stable coins. They can earn good interest on stable coins and transact really easily, like across the world at the speed of light. So it's just very handy to have your money in stable coins. And yeah, one of the best use cases for Ethereum and for crypto in general was and is stable coins. So this is one of the most bullish charts in the entire presentation. This chart is showing in orange is internet users from 1990 all the way up to 2009, and yeah, it took however many years to get to 1 billion users. So you can see crypto is on track to get there. So here, the dark purple here is yearly transacting addresses. So people who only make one transaction per year on crypto. But that's, like using Bitcoin is like, if you own Bitcoin, that's you using Bitcoin, and you might not move that Bitcoin for a decade. So it's kind of hard to gauge exactly how many people are actually using crypto. But nevertheless, they also have the monthly transacting addresses just below. So we're probably in between these two figures at the moment. So about 100 million people to probably about 20 million people. This is a log chart here. So they estimate, it looks like we're very much tracking the internet users over time. So by the year 2031, we should hit 1 billion crypto users. So about 10 times, at least 10 times the amount of users that we currently have in about 7 or 8 years. So very bullish, like 10 times the amount of people coming into the crypto industry, and that's still only that's still only like 1/7 of the entire population of the earth. So this is summarizing the entire research report. Some of the most iconic Web3 products will be built during the downturn, and the internet will continue consolidating into big tech, underscoring the importance of Web3. Concerns about social media giants will heighten the need for decentralized social networks. And they're kind of the most interesting highlights and the most interesting points from this research report, in my opinion. I hope you found this video interesting. I hope you found it useful. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Can't wait to see you in the next one. Cheers.